Hello, I'm Stephanie Soebbing from Quilt Addicts Anonymous, and welcome to our free motion quilting series where we teach you everything you need to know to get started with free motion quilting. We have quilt kits and stencil packs available to go along with this course. The idea is we're going to use stencils to teach you 4 different quilting stitches and then show you how to customize those once you get the muscle memory down from learning the stitch in the first place. Right now we're working on a Loopy Meander. It's a very versatile stitch. We can work with it a lot of different ways. In this video, we're going to be talking about how to use it as a block filler. We do have a pattern to go with this that you can get over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com, as well as stencil packs if you want to use your own fabric, and quilt kits if you want to use ours. We got 4 different colorways that you can choose from, and you can have some fun and really up your quilting game in 2022. All right, so here we have our block that we did for our stipple meander. This one we did in the previous set where we were learning how to work with and customize a stipple. So what I did was I first drew out my block and then I quilted along it with a walking foot, and then we did a background of the stipple. So make sure you've watched that video before you start this one. Now what we're going to do in this video is we're going to fill in just using a regular single loop meander like the one that we did in the stencil. So I'm going to show you first on our whiteboard how I'm going to do that, and then we're going to do it on fabric. I'm just going to really quickly draw out that quilt block. Doesn't matter if it's perfect if you're doing this at home. Don't spend a lot of time on that. You're just trying to get the general shape of it so that you know how to work around the block when you're filling it in. And this is a really great way to add customization to your quilt. A lot of people start out just doing all over quilting designs because that's easy and we can master that one thing. But when you want to make it custom and you want to make different things pop, you can use a very dense background filler and then maybe a little bit looser filler inside the block, and that will make the block kind of pop up more because it kind of tampons down that background when it's nice and tight, and then if you go a little looser on top, it makes it puff up more and stand out. So it's a great way to show off your piecing, especially if you're like really proud of those points. All right, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to start up here, and then I'm just going to work around just changing directions. I'm going to go clockwise for one, counterclockwise for the next. And the big thing here is you got to work around those points. You got to make sure that you're not quilting yourself into the corner with those points. You've got to leave yourself a way out. So I don't want to keep going. I want to fill in the center of this block because eventually I'm going to run out of space if I just do all of my center. So here we kind of looped around here, filled in our center, came back out to the star and out. Now if I had just gone through and done all my points and worked my way out, then I would have a center with nothing in it. And if that's your goal, if you want to do something else in your center, that's great, awesome. If your goal is to fill the whole thing in evenly, you're going to be stopping and starting those threads somewhere and you're going to have a problem. So make sure that you are keeping in mind how to work around the quilt. Feel free to use your scratch paper or your whiteboard to process that and learn how to move around as much as you can before you do it on the actual quilt, because that's just a skill that you learn the more you do it. And you don't have to do it on thread. You can learn how to do it and something that you can erase really easily and practice again on, and then do it on the actual quilt block so you're not like really frustrated when you're doing it on the real deal. But let's actually do that right now and get out our quilt block. All right, so just like on our practice piece, we're gonna start coming into that corner. And I'm getting my rhythm here. And I'm gonna do kind of a smaller scale loop, but I kind of want it to be maybe a little bit bigger than my stipple, so that way it'll pop up a little more when everything's said and done. All right, I'm gonna fill in this entire triangle bit here. And then I'm going to work my way over to fill in the next one. I'm going to kind of just work my way around, going counterclockwise around this block. And really, I'm technically working from left to right here. All right, so you can see I got a nice little chunk here in the corner. So I'm going to do a little loop, and I got to give myself enough space to kind of travel out through there. And then I just kind of like to do an S curve whenever I've got to travel. down before I can do my next loop. And my loops are getting a little smaller here than when I initially started, so I gotta keep an eye on that. Try to keep it nice and even throughout. I feel like I can probably, speed it up a little bit here. It's always a give and take for how fast you're going versus how big your stitches are. I'm going to keep it nice and even if you can. All right, this one I did a little bit better job of getting into the curve without having to get my loops super tiny. That's important. Done any of my center yet. I'm going to wait to do that kind of all at once here in a little bit. It's kind of a fun little arc over that point. I think that's kind of cute and fun. This is another one where I'm kind of I'm not really stopping as I'm working on a small enough block to where I really don't have to drastically move my hands. I'm just kind of moving my fingers a little bit. I'm never losing contact completely. I'm always holding on to it with at least one full hand, and then I'm just kind of moving my fingers just a little bit at a time. Like I'll keep my thumb down and move my rest of my fingers and then move the thumb to follow. That one was more of an E than a loop. That's okay. They're not all going to be perfect. Okay, so I think after this triangle is when I have no choice. I'm going to have to fill in everything. So that way I can get my whole center filled in before I work my way back out through the tip of my other triangle, and because it's the last one I've got. So my goal here, I've got to be able to get back in a way that makes sense to that upper triangle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work my way. Ooh, I had some really big stitches there. I need to speed up a little bit. There we go. That's a little bit better speed. I'm going to work my way down and over here. Kind of just filling in. This is kind of like when we were doing that double loop meander. We're just kind of going back and forth a little bit, up and down. I'm doing that here, except I'm going to stop about one loop's distance away from where that top triangle is, so that way I can fill that in once I've made it all the way to the left of this area. Because I didn't make it all the way up there. That's on purpose. I'm going to leave myself some room to stitch in there later. Kind of a tricky thing here, because I do not have a lot of space at this point in that little area. I'm going to have to travel right between those last two stitches when I fill this in. This is the hard part of working through a quilt block. so you can make sure that you kind of fill through everything nice and evenly. See, I'm kind of doing my little swirly line there to travel. It's not ideal, but it's okay. I got a lot of filler to do right up here, and then we can start filling in right below where we left this space open. Do the same thing, and finally go out through that triangle. Room for one more tiny little loop up here, and then we're just going to do a little kind of an S curve to get out and quilt right off the edge of that block. All right, you can really see how fun this is, how you can really customize it. Especially, obviously, this is one solid color so that we can practice on the stitches and not get distracted by the quilting. But you can see how if this was maybe a light background and then we had really bright fun prints here and we matched our thread to the background and matched our thread to our block, how this really can make your quilting and your designs pop. I always like to see my job when I'm doing the quilting as a way to enhance the design and help bring it to life. And by doing a different block filler than background filler, you really can do that. All right, so this was a really tight design. It probably is not going to be this tight when I do it on the long arm, just because I've got more space to work with, and so it's a little easier for me to kind of go a little bit bigger. But I tend to go a little tighter on the long or on the domestic and wider on the long arm, just because of the differences between the technology and the machines that we're working with. All right, I hope you have enjoyed this so far. The next one, I'm going to show you how to adapt this for a skinny border. And I like to call this one the flight of the bumblebee because it just kind of goes all over the place and it's really a fun one. It's great for when you have tiny little skinny borders. All right, just a reminder, we have everything you need to do this free motion quilting series over on our website. We have the pattern, we have the stencil kit so you can learn the designs and actually have lines to follow before we start customizing them like we're doing in today's video. And also we have quilt kits so you can practice on solid fabric and have a beautiful quilt when you're done, as opposed to a bunch of tiny little practice pieces out of ugly fabric that you regret buying. So make sure you check that out, and all of that is over at shop.quiltaddictsanonymous.com. All right, happy quilting, and we'll see you in the next one.